Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday, May 9th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. We begin our meetings with an invocation, and today we have Pastor Brian Michaels from the Springs Lighthouse to lead us in the invocation. Please join us if you'd like. And for the Pledge of Allegiance, I'm going to do something a little different this morning. Would our entire Department of Human Services crew please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible. Thank you. Item number 3.
Item number 3 is staff emergency items, and I'm unaware of any staff emergency items today.
Item number 4.
Item number 4 is changes, postponements, and notice of the next meeting. I'm unaware of any changes or postponements to today's agenda, and the next meeting will be May 16th at 9 o'clock and again at 1 o'clock for land use.
Item number 5.
Item number 5 is a consent calendar consisting of items 5A1 through 5I3.
Okay. Are there any anyone in the public who is wishing to speak on anything on the consent calendar? Okay. And up here?
I move approval of the consent calendar, items 5A1 through items I3.
I'll second.
That has been moved and seconded. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The consent calendar passes 5-0. Item number 6.
Item number 6 is comments by elected officials and commissioner liaison reports.
Commissioner Williams.
Yes, so it's wonderful to be here this morning. Last Thursday, we had the statewide Transportation Advisory Committee. It was an interesting meeting held in Denver. Interesting to see everyone. We approved a 4-year statewide transportation improvement plan, which has about 4 pages of El Paso County projects on that. We managed those through the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. Also, too, well, that's all we did at the STAC meeting. So last night, we had the opportunity to have our first redistricting commission hearing. It was very interesting to talk about those things as we get ready to redraw our commissioner districts. Other than that, this week, we have the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. I have the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority. And then that would be it. The rest of the week, I think I'm just pretty busy with appointments out in the district. So thank you.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The first thing I'd like to start with is to thank everybody's involvement in the Stout trial that took place and completed yesterday. I want to thank the jury and the judge. I want to thank the 4th Judicial District, the Sheriff's Office. But I also want to thank the defense attorneys, because that was a process that we revere in this country, a trial by jury, a trial of our peers. And it is so important to get a fair trial so that we can get the right kinds of outcomes. So I just want to thank everybody that was involved in that trial and did their best or succeeded in the prosecution. A lot of hard work, and my thanks to all of that. One other quick thing with regard to the state legislature. Oh my gosh, thank God it is over for this session. And I'm sure my colleagues will talk about several pieces of legislation, but I can assure everybody here how hard this board worked to address a lot of things that we felt were really, really unfair pieces of legislation, many things which were taking authority away from us, or were trying to take authority away from us, basically away from local government, and also sending a lot of unfunded mandates our way, not to mention some legislation that just was not founded on good principles at all. So I am glad that is over, and I am grateful for my colleagues and so many others that fought a lot of great battles. And in some cases, we had successes, and I think we'll hear more about that. As far as activities this week, this evening, I'll be going to the Teller County GOP Republican meeting, and I'm the guest speaker at that event tonight. Tomorrow, I'll be participating in the PPACG Board of Directors meeting, and then going to the Armed Forces lunch for the luncheon, and then participating in the Park Advisory Board, and then in the evening going to the Women of Distinction event. That'll be tomorrow. And then on Thursday, I'll be attending the Colorado Workforce Development Council reception. I'm really looking forward to that. And then on Friday, I'll be going to the NORAD 65th birthday event, and then to the Homeward Pikes Peak luncheon, and also meeting with several of my constituents during the course of the week that want to talk about different issues. Then on Saturday, I'll be going to the Pikes Peak State College 2023 commencement ceremony. Looking forward to seeing a whole ton of students graduate. What a great thing to see. Literally looking forward to the enthusiasm that I expect as people move on in their careers and go on to bigger and better things, and I think that'll really be just fantastic. And then see also then on Monday, prior to next Tuesday's meeting, I'll be going to the State of the Outdoors event on Monday evening at the Norris Penrose Event Center at 4:30. And that's all of my announcements. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to highlight a couple of events for this week. I did participate yesterday morning in the ribbon cutting for a MAMSIP program, which is a military-related road project down in south portion of Fountain. It was at the entrance there by Charter Oak Road in South Santa Fe. Really good event, and glad to see that. Hopefully, it will help ease some congestion on the main entry there, getting off onto highway or I-25 at gate 20, and so I think it's going to be very beneficial both to the military, Fort Carson, and to our residents there in Security Widefield and Fountain. For the rest of the week, I do have a PPRTA Wednesday afternoon, and then Wednesday evening I'll participate in the Western Heritage Kickoff event, which is going to be one of our kickoff events as we enter the kind of like the Western phase. You see a lot of Pikes Peak rodeo, Pikes Peak or bus rodeo, county fair, a lot of activities. This is traditionally considered kind of like the kickoff reception for our summer session with the Western Heritage. Also, Saturday we'll also participate in some of the events for the Pikes Peak State College commencement and graduation as well. And then next week, I will participate remotely on the meeting, as I'll be representing the county at the Western Interstate Regional Conference next week. That's the we participate in National Association of County Commissioners, and this is the Western region, and so I'll be attending with other commissioners from the Western states, going over issues relevant to us nationally and locally. And then I did want to highlight a little bit about the state, again, the legislature. Some of the two main ones I'll talk about are the land use and then our Tabor refunds and the property taxes. So I was happy to see that 212 was not able to get through and finish, and sure what they call it, tabled it, or it died essentially. It was one the county commissioners opposed, our statewide organization opposed it, Municipal League opposed it, the mayor of Denver opposed it, everybody opposed it, and I'm glad to see it die because it was taking local control away from our communities. And so I'm glad to see that we were able to unite and maintain local control, which I think everybody cares about. The other two I want to talk about is the property tax. We saw our tax bills spike. Well, we've gotten a lot of calls, we've gotten emails, we've gotten just just general conversations with friends and people who aren't our friends telling us what happened. Well, I'll tell you what happened. Several years ago, I think it was 3 years ago, people got behind, or leaders got behind the repeal of Gallagher. Gallagher had its flaws and faults, but even back then, there were a lot of people, including myself, who said a full repeal of Gallagher will cause a spike. So this was a foreseeable outcome, a spike, because some people were not willing to make the hard decisions 3 years ago on how to perhaps amend Gallagher, but instead went the short-sighted way of just a full repeal. So we are where we are. People voted for it. I think they were misled, and it's unfortunate, but we are where we are, where we got these spikes of hundreds of dollars, if not for some people, a couple $1,000s increases in their property valuations and possible taxes. And so now we've gotten some fixes from the state legislature that are not fixes. They are minimal reductions in the increase of proposed taxes on property taxes. And what they are trying to do is get the people at the end of the year to vote to give up our Tabor funds. I believe this is a bait and switch effort by the state legislature. This is House Senate Bill 303 to get us to say, oh, we do want a reduction in property taxes. We do. We absolutely want it, but it's pennies, and they're going to then take our Tabor refunds for a decade, and the way it's written, it could be forever. I don't trust the legislature on this issue. The other one, which makes it even more scary and deceptive, is House Bill 1311, a partner bill which was dropped on Saturday. The absolute minimum that it could be dropped and passed by the legislature, well, it was Dem. I don't think any Republicans supported it at all. I'm going to tell you what this bill does. This bill is trying to come up with a method of giving back Tabor refunds in a slightly different way, similar to how the governor made changes to Tabor refunds last year to make it look, in his reelection year, to make it look like they were giving you some refunds because of the high rate of inflation. It was already our Tabor refund. They just gave it to us early, but made it look like they were doing something good on our behalf. In this case, they're saying they're going to, I believe, this is my personal opinion, they're going to pass, it's passed, they're going to say it tied back to 303. It will not happen if 303 does not pass. And what they will imply and mislead the public, and that you will not get your Tabor refund if you do not pass HH at the end of the year. That will be absolute misrepresentation, and I will call it a lie. They're going to make it believe, they're going to make the public believe they won't get their Tabor refunds. What will happen, you will not get the Tabor refund in that method. You'll get your Tabor refund in the already approved method. 1311 only works for 1 year because all the state cares about is keeping our Tabor funds, and they're going to try to find a way to influence and mislead the public to vote for HH. I will be opposing HH. I believe a majority of this board has already stated our opposition to HH, and if you read the newspaper this morning, every Republican House representative on the final vote walked out on House Bill 303 because it was rammed through. And it's, again, I believe it's a big bait and switch, and I'm speaking way too long, but I'm very upset about what's happening, and they're going to mislead the public and steal our Tabor and destroy Tabor. And everybody should oppose that.
Thank you, Commissioner Gonzalez. Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So a couple of things on, I appreciate the comments of Commissioner Gonzalez, and it's been really interesting. Yeah, so there was a walkout last night, pretty late last night. Based on that, there's been unprecedented use of rules to silence the minority in this legislative session. And that's really unfortunate because we've talked about here, I've talked about it a lot lately, how important it is to have political discourse and make sure that ideas are fully vetted. So I too am very concerned about 303. I think that when you start seeing folks from across the aisle band together and say, come on, Governor, this isn't honest, that should tell us all something about where we are, and that's kind of what's been happening in the last week. I rarely agree with Kyle Clark from up in Denver, but this is one that I agree with, and shared some of his comments about this, where, quite frankly, he asked, Governor, do you think we're dumb? we're not dumb. We see what's happening here. We see the way we are being coerced into giving up more and more of our hard-earned tax dollars. So I agree 303 was egregious. The way it was done is egregious. And I look forward to continuing to find ways to help citizens realize what is truly in there. One of the things, and we talk about Tabor, and sometimes I like to stop and just say it's the taxpayer's Bill of Rights. We use Tabor. We have so many new people moving into Colorado, moving into our community. They don't all fully understand and know what Tabor is. And though I think Tabor has frustrated many politicians, it is a way to make sure that citizens get to vote for tax increases. It's a way to make sure government doesn't grow too quickly. It is, in my opinion, the reason that Colorado continues to be in the shape that it is in terms of our economic viability, because we don't have an out of control government spending. Though it continues to increase, and I mentioned before, I will get that graphic at some point about how the state government has continued to get around Tabor by creating more and more enterprises. So there absolutely is frustration about the fact that they have to come to the voters, but the voters overwhelmingly support being asked, and I think that that continues to be important, and look forward to the continued conversations on that piece. I am so thrilled. I don't think the session could have ended any better than the death of 213 last night, the land use bill that we have talked so much about here. Huge shout out to our government affairs staff, Ryan Parcell, Brandon Wilson. I know Brandon was up at the Capitol until late last night. The tremendous amount of work that has happened because this board decided that we want to be leaders in the state of Colorado. As the largest county, we feel like we have a responsibility to do that, and I am really proud of the work that we have all done to not just sit back and say, okay, what will the state hand down to us today, but actually really work to improve legislation when we can, to work to oppose it when it is necessary. We worked very closely with the city of Colorado Springs on this land use bill. That partnership was incredibly valuable. So just huge shout out to folks who spent a lot of evenings and weekends paying attention to what goes on in the session, because unlike many of us who are working those business hours, the legislature does not always adhere to those. So super thankful for all of that work. I want to give a huge shout out to a couple of our local officials, Senator Paul Lundeen, Rep. Don Wilson, and Rep. Rose Puglisi, who were also very helpful and very good at communicating back and forth. I want to thank Senator Exum. We don't always agree, but on the land use bill, he was willing to hear from us on how concerning that was. So I really appreciate being able to work across the aisle and have those conversations as well. Try and wrap up quickly here, because I know that I've already had a lot of comments, but I too want to say thanks to everyone involved in the Stauch trial yesterday. I was able to attend part of that press conference yesterday. It was unbelievable to see the relief in the faces of the family, the investigators, our DA's office, to finally get that guilty verdict. And I know that our community can truly continue healing, knowing that justice is being served in that area. And so just a huge shout out. They did a really terrific job. It's a great reminder of how fortunate we are to have an excellent DA who really does work very hard to get to justice for all of our victims. And then lastly, I have to take a minute to express just disbelief, I think, in something that came out in the news this last week, but happened a couple weeks ago, and that is that the Colorado Education Association, that's our state teachers union, and I love teachers, but the State Education Association came out with a resolution opposing capitalism saying that it exploits children and a ton of other things, and calling for a more equitable economic system. That's disturbing. I could say a lot. I'm going to leave it there, but that's disturbing, and we should all be concerned. And we should all be vigilant about what our kids are learning in their schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Geithner. I'm going to tag on to the legislative comments. Those two, of course, all of us up here have been fairly involved in the legislative session, but we've also done a lot of dividing and conquering. And those two who spoke the most this morning about some of the legislation, they've really been our leaders on CCI. Those are intense calls where all the county commissioners from across the state decide what we're going to do. And obviously, not all the commissioners are of the same mindset or have the same values. And so even just working with our colleagues from across the state is quite enlightening. It's quite a big haul. And these two to my left right here just did a fantastic job really being leaders and setting El Paso County up for success as our views were then taken onto the state legislature. So I also want to give a huge shout out to our state lobbyist, Mike Beasley. I think in a few weeks we will be hearing from him on an end of session report. But he, as I understand it, he, along with CCI and CML, Ryan Parcell and Brandon Wilson from our own staff, were pretty instrumental in seeing that land use bill die yesterday. So El Paso County citizens can rest a little easier, at least for another year, knowing that local control on our land use decisions is currently still in place. And we'll work hard to see that that remains the case. I also have a busy schedule. Lots of things going on. El Paso County Housing Authority, Health Plan Trust Board this week, and it's also Armed Forces Week. So you heard my colleagues mention many events that are planned for Armed Forces Week. Obviously, with our military installations, that's a huge deal, really for all Americans. But in this town, we know how to celebrate it, and El Paso County is very, very proud of our current and former military members. Also, at the end of this week, the Colorado Workforce Development Board will be meeting here in El Paso County. So a little shout out to our Pikes Peak Workforce Center staff that covers both El Paso County and Teller County. Tracy does an excellent job, and it's our turn to host a meeting and showcase some of the landmark things that are going on here in workforce development. And then I think that's it. So we all have busy schedules this week. Thank goodness we can mark some legislative things off the schedules for a few more weeks before we get going on the next session. But did you have a redo?
If I could have a redo, just one real quick one.
Sure thing.
Thank you. I appreciate Commissioner Geithner's statement about the CEA. When I saw that, God, that just made me mad. And I'll just read a quote from the proclamation. CEA believes that capitalism requires the exploitation of children, requires the exploitation of public schools, requires the exploitation of land and labor, and requires the exploitation of resources. Capitalism is in opposition to fully addressing systemic racism. It's in opposition to fully addressing climate change. It's in opposition to fully addressing patriarchy. It's in opposition, it creates education inequality, and it creates income inequality. You know, I swore an oath 5 times when I was in the Department of Defense. Every time I increased in rank, I swore an oath to defend the country, to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Socialism is one of those enemies. And this is socialism coming out of our own teachers' union. Thank you, Commissioner Geithner, for bringing that up.
Thank you. Are there any countywide elected officials online? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move to item number 7.
Item number 7 is Community Service Organization Report. 7A, Loop Water Authority Update. Jesse Schaefer, District Manager, Woodmore Water and Sanitation and Loop Water Authority Member, and Amy Lathan, General Manager, Cherokee Metropolitan District.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. Morning, everyone. Just a quick note coming from me personally, not representing the Loop. Long live capitalism and the free market. We will fight. So thank you for your comments, commissioners. It's always great to be here with you. And today, with the Loop Water Authority, the full board that we have organized for this very, very important regional project, we are really pleased to be in front of you and just give you a report. Give you, first of all, our thanks for your trust in this project by awarding this project some of those federal ARPA funds so that we can get going on this very, very important project. And just in context, to kind of reiterate the big picture, you have northern water providers that include Denala, Woodmore, and the town of Monument working together with Cherokee Metropolitan District, which is more on the eastern side, of course, with a significant water infrastructure in eastern El Paso County, including reverse osmosis on our wastewater treatment system, which is completely unique within the entire region, working together on an incredible regional project to deliver renewable water sources to customers in the northern part of the county that currently do not have access to those water resources. This is, there have been studies, Jesse knows best how many studies there have been in this county over the last several decades. Study after study after study, and work and work and work. And now we are on the brink of putting all of those together and actually being able to deliver first use renewable and reuse water into the system so that we can take some pressure off of those Denver Basin wells and preserve the water resources, the very, very precious water resources in this county that are not part of course, CSU's extensive water resource system. So what we're trying to do is create resiliency, we're creating redundancy, and we're creating long-term sustainability of the number one resource, which is water. That's game, set, match for everyone here. And so we are excited to be working forward and wanted to come in front of you both, again, with our thanks to you and with an update on where things stand. So Jesse, would you take it from here? Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, commissioners, for letting us come before you today, give you an update on where we're at with everything. As Amy said, we're still excited about this project. This is a great project for all of the reasons that she lamented just a moment ago. But we do want to give you an update in terms of status, where we're at. Since we last talked to you, we've been busy. We've been extremely busy. And forming a water authority and getting it off the ground, getting the bank account set up, getting operations rolling, it's a lot more daunting of a task than, you know, just running out and registering a company at the Secretary of State's office. It's a little bit more involved with that when you're talking about government and public funds as well as federal funds through the grant authorization and dedication that you folks had given us. But I am happy to report that we are officially organized and legally organized. We do have a bank account that has been opened, so we are funded as well. Each of the member agencies currently ponied up $250,000 to put into that bank account to fund our operations. We do have our federal acquisition policies, formal policies in place to deal with the federal grant dollars that will be funneled through. We also have formal procedures that were adopted at the last Loop Water Authority Board meeting, so that we're following procedurally those federal acquisition requirements and making sure that we're staying in accordance with the grant zoning or the grant allocation and requirements thereof. We're currently in the process of obtaining a unique identifier number through the sam.gov website. Formerly used to be called a DUNS number, if you guys remember, back when it was FedBizOps and not sam.gov. But nonetheless, we will receive that shortly. And then once we do receive our unique identifier from sam.gov, we'll be reaching out to the county. I believe Jorge is our particular grant administrator. We'll be reaching out to him to get the proper paperwork over to us so that we can get the subrecipient agreement signed and off the ground to open the door for reimbursement requests, hopefully starting in June. Might drag out to July, but nonetheless, we're on the warpath. We're steadily marching forward. And so, as Amy said, we've had decades worth of studies, decades worth of work, decades worth of, dreaming of a project like this and trying to get something like this to come to fruition. The studies aren't quite over yet. We're still engaged in a few more. We're trying to funnel this thing down so that we can be as efficient with our time, with everybody's time, be as efficient with everybody's money, including the federal government's dollars. Just because we're spending their money doesn't mean that we need to spend it unwisely. We treat it no differently than our own. So right now, I can tell you that we have went out to the public, to the consulting community through RFPs. We've actually chosen an engineering firm to do water quality testing on Fountain Creek, both at the Chilcot Ditch Head Gate as well as down ditch on the Chilcot Ditch for water quality purposes. We'll be cooking that water quality monthly in a whole battery of tests. More than I ever thought we'd be doing in any one testing cycle. But anyway, monthly time step on testing. We want to see how water quality, if it does ebb and flow with various constituents in Fountain Creek. We want to see what that does. We want to see how that how those constituents, increase or decrease in concentration over time, so that we have the most holistic picture that we can get in order to funnel that information into yet another study, which Kevin will come up and speak with you about in terms of what we're going to need to do in the future to get to where we can do hardline design, where we can contract with engineering firms to actually put together the project plans, put together the project specifications, and then actually go out to bid for construction services. So we're doing water quality testing on the river. We do have what we call our project manager workflow coordinator position out on the streets for public bidding. We're reaching again out to the consultant community. We need a gentleman or a lady, some person to help us along the way. We all have day jobs, and quite frankly, there's a lot of work to be done here to get us to construction. So what this person will do will be basically act as our agent. They'll sort of ride herd over all the consultants that we hire. They'll make sure that, those contracts that we engage other folks in, that, they're proceeding on schedule and on budget, that sort of thing. Act as a liaison between us and them, so on and so forth. So hopefully we'll have that particular person, that particular consultant in place by, I'm hoping, mid-next month. So that's ongoing. We are currently in the thick of an operations model. So this operations model is a much deeper dive on this specific system than we've ever done in any past studies. What it's doing is it's replicating historical river flows over what the consultants call a historical study period, which includes wet, dry, and average years. We want to make sure that the water, the renewable water rights that are in this system and are going to be drafted off and imparted into the loop system, as well as the reuse, that over time in wet, dry, and average years, that there's enough sustainable, when it comes to a steady state, that there's enough sustainable water in the system in order to meet the loop participants' needs. So we're currently working on those particular studies, hoping to wrap up the operations study probably by mid-next month. And then between the water quality testing, the results that we find out there, and the results that we find out from the operations study, we've got a few more studies to do, or a few more engineering tasks to do. One of them is going to be what we call a schematic design. In the engineering community, we used to call it a pre-design study, but basically, it's the next step in the process to bring in not only results from past studies, but results from what we're doing currently in order to move this forward. And with that, I'll ask Kevin to come up and give you guys the lowdown on what the schematic study is going to do for us, the timing of that particular schematic study, when we expect to get results, and then when we expect to go out to the engineering community to actually do RFPs for design work, for pipeline design, pump station design, water treatment, reservoir expansion, the whole gambit. So with that, if anybody has any questions, let me know. If not, I'll ask Kevin to come up and give you
Questions for
the...
Jesse? Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you very much. So I appreciate all the great work that you guys are doing, and I remain really supportive of this concept. But I do want to know is a little bit, it's great to get these studies done. That'll give us the vision about kind of more specifics about how to go forward. And maybe it's too preliminary for you to give an answer, but I'll ask the question, then you can let me know. What is your thinking at this point on the pricing and how you might get to that? I do remember a number, which I won't hold you to, that you gave us originally, and I know that most projects never hold on to their original numbers. But just really intrigued by it. So where are we on kind of like timing and pricing? And if it's too early, that's okay. Just tell me that.
I don't know that we have any sort of update to give you that we haven't already given you. Kevin will talk about the schematic design. And again, that's one of the final pieces. The schematic design is a much more zoomed in, honed engineering exercise. And it's going to also include an updated cost estimate on all of the components of the loop system. We're hoping we can get down to what AACE calls a level 2 cost estimate. The cost estimates that we gave everybody, I don't know, last year, or maybe even a little bit longer than that. Those cost estimates were based off of the studies that came out of 2021 and 2022. And those cost estimates were essentially not as refined. They were a level 3 cost estimate. And so currently, all of our financial modeling, all of our rates modeling, all of the numerics that we've been dealing with are based on those particular numbers. That was the 162 million that we came and we presented to the board. That's still the valid number that we have, and that's still the number we're working off of. However, I can tell you through the next engineering cycle that we do with this schematic study, we're hoping to get even further refined costs. Then those particular refinements will allow us to go back to our financial model and input that, revise our financial model as well as our rates model, or our delivery fees model, if that's what you want to call it. So we still have our eye on that prize, and we still have our eye to those costs, but before any of us really want to go out to our public and say, hey, here's how much your bill's going to go up if we participate in this project, or here's how much it's going to cost on a dollar per thousand, basis, we want to make sure that the numbers we're dealing with are as refined and are as accurate as they possibly can be at each stage of the process. The only thing that you can get more accurate is a level 1 cost estimate, and that's after you've got 90% construction plans developed, and we're just not quite there. We haven't even advertised for RFPs for engineering services to get to that point yet. But we'll get there, and there'll be one more revision. When we get to the 80-90% on construction plans, we'll have new cost estimates, and again, we'll funnel those back through our rates models. We'll funnel those back through our finance models, and then we'll have all of the answers to all of the pertinent questions, and we'll be able to have faith and confidence in that data that we'll be pushing to the public at that time and to everybody else.
Great, thank you. And I'm really proud of our region and proud of our communities because we've actually really done so much to be responsible stewards of our water. Many of you may have heard this, and I may not say it exactly, but I think it's over the last decade, the city of Colorado Springs is using no more water today than they were 10 years ago, despite the growth, because we've been doing a lot in water conservation. It is a precious resource in our region, and this particular project and projects like it kind of continue that legacy of stewardship of water. It's one of the things I like very much about it. But I just really honestly feel we've been great and responsible stewards of our precious resources here in this region, including water. And this is just another great example of trying to continue that legacy. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. With that, I'll have Kevin come up and explain the next round of engineering that we're going to be doing, and hopefully when we're going to be getting on the construction document warpath. Thank you.
Commissioner Williams, did you have
Yeah.
a question before?
And actually, I think I've answered my own question, but I found your website, loopwater.org, just for looking for that position you mentioned that was available. I always am trying to send things out to a few friends here and there. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse, for the introduction, Amy for the previous introduction, and thank you to all of you for your continued interest in this project. I'm going to walk through what our next steps are over the next 6 months or so. So with the initial results from our water quality testing, there aren't any big components that jump out as preventing this project from going ahead. The water quality testing we're doing now feeds into engineering design for water treatment for our final customer delivery. And similarly, our operations study regarding water rights and availability of return flows also shows that the overall business model that we put together 6 months to 2 years ago still works. So with all of that in mind, we're moving ahead to our next step, which is a schematic design report. So with a project of this size that stretches all the way from almost the south end of the county to almost the north end of the county, there are a lot of moving parts. And what we could do is approach the biggest engineering firms in the country and say, we'd like you to design this entire thing. Here's a blank check, and go do what go complete this project for us. And that has had success in the past, and it's also had overruns in the past nationwide. So what we're doing is a little bit more of a piecemeal approach. Maybe it's going to be a little slower, but will allow us to have a lot more control over every component of the project. So what we're going to move ahead with is what's called schematic design, which is we ask one engineering firm to tell us, based on our inputs, our water quality, our water availability, and our demands, tell us what size our pipes need to be, where they should run, where we need to put pump stations, how large and with what technology should we use, or how large should our water treatment plant be, what technology should we use for that, and present us with alternatives for all these project components. So there is a lot going into this project, but there are also a lot of firms locally here in Colorado Springs and statewide engineering firms that have a lot of expertise in this kind of work. So what we're looking to get out of this schematic design is basically bid packages ready to send out for specific construction engineering. So we want to have the exact treatment technologies and size for our water treatment plant, pipeline size, pipeline route, locations for pump stations and other infrastructure, so we can start going out for land acquisition and then design and construction of each project component. And on top of all of that, maybe the most important thing for us moving forward with the actual construction of the loop is that final cost estimate that Jesse was talking about. With that final cost estimate in mind and the volumes of water that are available, we'll be able to refine our business model and then go to our customers and say, okay, this is what it's going to cost. This is the stages. This is our timing. Should we go ahead with this? And we're hopeful that the answer will be yes. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
That's Kevin Brown, Water Resource Engineer for Cherokee Metropolitan District, and thank you very much. I think one thing that's really important to note is that although we have the current membership of the Loop Water Authority, we invite other water providers to join as they see the benefit. And what we're trying to do in this model is make it so that it's easy for other entities to come in and then they can bring with whatever resources they may have. What can they bring to the table and what can benefit them and their customers? And so we're very open to that. There's no point in time where we say this is the membership. that's it, you're out. No, it's very, very open, and we're trying to develop this so that regionally others can benefit. And the way this is designed and all the different assets that are already in place within the county, I think there's an opportunity for a lot of other water providers to be able to participate in some fashion. And so there's a lot to that we're working on, and the engineers are the ones to do math in public. That's not me. Thank you very much for doing that. But we will be talking, and we already have been, with other water providers, because that's what we do as water providers. We want to control the costs of providing water to our customers in the long term, short and long term. We must, of course, make sure that we have perpetual supplies, and that those supplies are safe and absolutely compliant. And so those are the things that drive us every day, and this is going to be something that will provide that for a lot more users. Very important to note that more users can jump in. Yep. Anything else? We've probably gone a little bit too long. We really thank you for the time. And again, thank you for the confidence in this project. So much more to do. And I'll bet that what will happen is after we are kind of through the summer and all this work that we're doing, we'll probably come to you at the end of the year with another update, or at any time that you request. Please don't ever hesitate to jump in with questions or anything that you might have for us. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just thank you to you all for being here. This is such a large and complex thing that you're doing, and I am grateful for the leadership and the expertise that is in our community in this area. We hear often, talk often in this room, especially around land use issues, around the concerns about water. And being on the eastern side of our county, I am very hopeful that more and more of our water districts will see the value. And again, I think this group is very visionary, and being able to see that from the beginning, and that's fantastic. But it's wonderful to know that some of our districts who are maybe a little smaller, or we're just a little unsure, still have that ability to join in and be a part of what I ultimately think is an incredible solution for our county, who we know, there is no option but to find solutions at this point moving forward. So thank you all for your vision, for your commitment to getting there, and for the continued updates. I know there's just so many moving pieces here, but looking forward to, at some point getting to that point where we really get to see things start moving on this.
You'll be at the ribbon cutting for the first shovel in the ground. Yes, we will get that done.
Didn't want to yell this out. Mike Foreman, Town of Monument. We do meet every Thursday also. So every Thursday at 9 o'clock, and it's on our website. Commissioner Williams mentioned our website. We meet every Thursday. There are public meetings, so the public is invited. And like you said, the districts are all invited to that meeting. So they're either in Monument at our town hall, or they're at Cherokee at their district meeting, managers meeting office. Okay, thank you.
And just for clarification, so it sounds like all of those are posted publicly on that website, so you can tell which location it is for each date, so the public can attend those.
Yes, ma'am, they are.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the commissioners? Thank you very much for being here today. I too am very proud of your cutting edge vision and the ability and the know-how to make that a reality. Thank you very much for sharing each of those steps. I'm a huge fan of the design build model that's often used on huge infrastructure projects, sometimes transportation projects and other things. So I think ultimately it gets you to a better final product and uses the resources efficiently, which is what the whole project is about. So thank you for being visionary and applying that to this project as well. Okay, thank you very much for your update. And we are on item number 8.
Item number 8 is public comment on items not scheduled on the agenda. This is the public's opportunity to speak on an item not scheduled on today's agenda. And Madam Chair, I don't believe anyone signed in ahead of time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on any item not on the agenda? Seeing none in the audience. Any online? And there are none online. Item number 9.
Item number 9 is the proclamation recognizing National Foster Care Month. Cami Bremer, Chair, Board of County Commissioners.
And as I read this, anyone who's planning on speaking on this item, if you want to make your way down, you are welcome to do so. I move approval of the following proclamation recognizing National Foster Care Month. Whereas all children deserve and benefit from enduring positive relationships with caring adults, especially when their own families are in crisis and unable to provide for their essential well-being. And whereas May is National Foster Care Month, and on any given day, about 541 children are living in out-of-home care in El Paso County. And whereas there's always a need for foster families, and it is a priority to keep siblings together and in their neighborhoods. And whereas the El Paso County Department of Human Services placement team works on approximately 130 placement searches each month, with most searches successfully leading to placement with foster or kin. At any given time, there are approximately 50 children and/or youth in need of placement. And whereas children in foster care require secure, stable places to call home until they can either safely reunite with their parents or establish other lifelong family relationships. And whereas the immeasurable and ongoing gifts of time and caring given by foster families in El Paso County are greatly appreciated and deserve public thanks. And whereas the Department of Human Services works in partnership with our local child placement network of 22 contracted agencies, involved families and extended families, schools, faith, and civic organizations, law enforcement, and the judiciary toward the goal of positively affecting the lives of children in foster care. And whereas efforts continue to strengthen families and connect vulnerable children with concerned citizens who, as foster parents, mentors, and advocates, will help them thrive on their way to adulthood and successfully navigate life changes. Now, therefore, the Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, hereby applauds the community's efforts to help children living in foster care to build brighter futures by honoring our citizens who serve as foster parents or relative caregivers, and hereby proclaims the month of May as Foster Care Appreciation Month in El Paso County. Done this 9th day of May, 2023, at Colorado Springs, Colorado. Signed, the Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, Cami Bremer, Chair, Carrie Geithner, Vice Chair, Lojinos Gonzalez Jr., Stan Vanderwerf, and Holly Williams, members, and attested to by Steve Schleicher, County Clerk and Recorder.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded. Ms. Jones.
Good morning, and thank you, Commissioners, for this opportunity to highlight the critical and amazing work of our foster care team. And before I continue on that, I will introduce myself again. My name is Katanya Jones, and I'm the Director of Children, Youth, and Family Services for El Paso County DHS. Highlighting the critical and amazing work of our foster care team, our foster families, our child placement agencies, and all of our partners who have a role in the safety of children. We encourage and support a strong continuum of care for children, which includes a network for children, youth, and families that in the moment have an increased need for support and intervention as they get the help that they need. We strive toward the right service at the right time, and sometimes that means out-of-home care and foster placement. It is also a priority to keep siblings together and in their neighborhoods and school districts. There is always a need for foster families in El Paso County and across the state, especially for the adolescent population, in addition to complex and high needs population. As child protection continues to strive to be responsive to trauma and treatment needs, we respect the practice of engaging family voice and promoting communication and support between biological families and foster families for the best outcome for children. We could not do this work without our network of child placement agencies and even our own county small foster program. A huge thank you to foster families who open up their hearts and homes to the most vulnerable, as well as being part of the solution to create a bright future for children in our community. Becoming a foster parent is not the only way to support children, as well as the fostering community. Fostering Hope is a local nonprofit in our region specifically focused on supporting our foster families. There's also a need for respite homes in our region, and such homes provide a safe place for foster children for brief stays. And anyone who's interested in learning more about becoming a foster parent may contact the placement agencies directly or could contact DHS at 719-650-4433. And you can contact Fostering Hope directly to inquire about support around foster families. And then I'd like to give a shout out to the team that's here today, and as well as Fostering Hope. Fostering Hope folks showed up today. So say hi, Fostering Hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Okay. Any comments from up here? Actually, can we have a quick introduction from your placement team behind you?
Absolutely.
County foster team, as well as our kinship program.
Great.
Hello, good morning. I'm Janice Sumo, and I'm the supervisor for the El Paso County foster care team. And this is my team. Meredith, Angel, and Jennifer.
Thank you very much. Okay. Any other comments from up here? Commissioner Williams.
This is always a rewarding day every year to talk about our foster care system, about how our efforts are to place them in a good home. But if we can train the parents and help the parents get back to stability, that they could also have their own child back. This morning, I'm thinking actually of a different situation where a family at my church saw a need and sort of adopted, not officially, their best friend's, their son's best friend who was having problems at home, and just took him in and covered all of his needs. He went on a mission for our church, covered the church mission for him. And after this young man returned from a church mission, to see him thank his these two parents who had taken him in. I think there's always a need for a caring adult in anyone's life, a teenager, a young child. And that stability that you gain in your youth carries along into your adulthood. So thank you for all that you do, and thank you to Fostering Hope as well.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I always like doing this every year. A great opportunity to remind us of the things that are always priorities for us, our youth, our children, and the community that we should be taking care of and nurturing and doing the best we can. So I appreciate all the great work and all the foster parents that do all the great things for our youth and children. Thank you.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I'd like to express my appreciation as well. First of all, thanks to you all. I imagine on the one side, it's very rewarding to see these kids find a place to be. And on the other side, sometimes you see some pretty tough environments that break your heart. But kids need families. It's just that simple. And families, when they're healthy, they solve problems. So healthy families are so important. They're critical for kids. And I appreciate a lot of the things that are in the proclamation, the work you do with, if I read this number correctly, 22 contracted private agencies, tons of organizations that really work on this. And I still remember very fondly, it was a couple, maybe 3 years ago back, and you all may know who this is, but you brought this one, I think it was, is respite care the temporary part of foster care? Yeah, a respite care mom who had temporarily taken on over 60 kids. And that just is amazing to me. That's the kind of people that are really dedicated to kids. So I still remember that. It just amazed me that we have people in our community willing to do that kind of work just because they love kids so much and they know how important it is for kids to have care. So again, thank you to all of you for all the great work that you're doing. Just keep on doing it and do as much of it as you can. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also want to express my thanks. As Commissioner Vanderwerf said, healthy families are so important, and you all are a vital part of making sure that children have a healthy family and are able to live out their childhood and grow up to be hopefully very successful adults. So thank you for your hard work in our community.
And I'll finish it up here with a few comments that honestly, I can't say it any better than the words that were written in this proclamation. The reason we do these proclamations is to raise awareness and also to recognize and thank people who deserve to be recognized and thanked. So I'm honored to be able to do that for you today. You may know that I am a Mr. Rogers fan, and he has a lot to say about this area. But one of my favorites that's applicable to the two reasons we do these, again, for to encourage and thank the people that are involved every day, is that anyone who does anything to help a child in his life is a hero to me. And we talk a lot up here about heroes. We see a lot of them every day. We work with a lot of them. And you all are included in that. And the families that you work with are included in that. And the kids that you place are included in that. So thank you very much for being here today. We are proud of the work you do. We're proud of your focus on keeping families together and also on strengthening and providing skill building to those families that maybe just don't have the resources or the know-how. I get the opportunity to see the intricacies of how you all work with families on that. And I'm so proud of the way this county approaches trying to keep families together and at the same time prioritizing the safety and well-being and development of children. So it's a hard balance, and you all do it in the trenches every day. Thank you very much. And thank you to our Fostering Hope partners. We couldn't do what we do as a government agency without our nonprofits and our placement agencies. So thank you very much for seeing the need. You're filling a very unique and special niche that I don't believe exists in other counties across the state, maybe here and there, but certainly not as strong as we have here in El Paso County. So thank you very much. With that, I will call the roll and we'll vote on this and then do a quick recess. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. And we'll be in recess for a photo.
Thank you.
And I will call this meeting of the County Commissioners back to order. We are on item number 10.
Item number 10 is the called up consent calendar, and there are no items called up.
Item 11.
Item number 11 is department and committee reports, non-action items, and there are none.
Item 12.
Item number 12 is the addendum, and there is no addendums today.
Item 13.
Item number 13 is the executive session, 13A, pursuant to CRS 246402, 4B and E. The county attorney's office is requesting executive session regarding the following matters pertaining to potential litigation involving the estate of William Johnson. 1, conference with the county attorney's office for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions related to a potential litigation matter as referenced above. And 2, determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators relating to the matter as referenced above. Nathan Whitney, First Assistant County Attorney. Mary Geringer, Senior Assistant County Attorney.
Is there a motion to go into executive session?
I'd like to make that motion to go into executive session.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded. I will call the roll. Commissioner Vanderwerf,
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner,
Aye.
and Commissioner Williams. The chair votes aye. So we will be in executive session beginning at 10:15 in the upstairs conference room.